Okay, hello and welcome to the newest episode of Borderline Podcast Disorder. How is everyone? You good? Yeah, I hope you're okay. I hope you had a nice week and I hope you're gonna have a nice week this week and until next week when you listen to the next episode. But anyway, yeah, I hope you're good. I really do. I'm all right. I had a nice week. Yeah, nice. I think I didn't. Still not having a working kitchen. We're still waiting for the kitchen renovation to be done. So I eat. I eat in the living room. I do everything in the living room now. It's really weird. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a hotel room. I see why I miss, or like I see why a kitchen is important. I guess that's interesting. You get to appreciate kitchens more. I got to appreciate kitchens more, and I'm excited to be able to heat something up rather than having sandwiches or just takeouts, But I've done a long run today. I've done like a 10. I mean, long for me. I to me it was a long run. To someone else, it might have just been the warm up. It was a 10 miles run, and it was quite nice. I woke up thinking, oh, okay, today I have no plans. I just gotta edit this, and put it together, the episode, and get it out there. And besides of that, no plans. However, that might change. I might go out and do a spot tonight, just because I got some new bits that I wrote in the last couple of days that I really want to try out. For everyone in based in England, or I mean mostly based around London, I'm hopefully going to. Going to be a date soon, hopefully for me to do a compilation show with some other people, and try to to glue all my material together and see how much I've got. So for that, stick around, and you'll see the date dropping soon. Fingers crossed. I don't know. Hopefully. For everyone listening everywhere else, thank you. And I don't know. I hope one day I'll travel the world. There are loads of people listening to this from the United States. So, I appreciate you folks. I am hopeful to one day visit the is it the promised land? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, by the way. But because it's been a good week. Again, it's been an all right week for me, I guess, mentally. Even though I've been working a lot on my other like day job, and then I've been writing a bit. Again, the house is a bit of a mess because of all the renovation. But I think I've held it together. Much better than I thought I would. Yeah, I've reflected on a lot of things actually recently as well, and I thought about the I guess the lack of empathy in the world and with each other. I feel like we have a tendency um, to want to, I don't know what, to want to divide, basically. You see so many people that are just, I don't know, it seems like they find happiness and joy in dividing people. And it kind of worked, because I did end up cutting some friendships, or some relationships recently. And it's on the back of something that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. But I just don't. It just makes me sad. It just makes me really sad when I look around. Not you, but I look around, and everyone feels like everyone wants to have an opinion about something, and doesn't care about someone else's feelings. I'd like to think I have opinions of my own, and I have, beliefs and some things I stand by, but I don't want to see other people, I don't know, I don't want to make other people feel bad because of it, if that makes sense in a way. I don't know, maybe. I was actually telling Irene last night, we had a fairly deep conversation, and I think I was saying something like, it's quite wild when I think about the things that I do now and the ways that I act now, where I sometimes am dealing with things better than I thought I would in those circumstances. But what annoys me now, it's how other people that especially people who I actually held to a high regard, thinking that they are, you know, some sort of, not role models, but they were like people who I thought, oh my God, those people are really like impressive and they are dealing with their stuff really well. They don't. And it was quite. I think, it was a bit annoying, in some way, because I thought, well, was I wrong? I didn't. Am I a bad judge of character? But I think that happens like so much. That happens quite a bit, and I think that's fine. I can live with it. Yeah, it's been a lot of thinking, a lot of reflection, recently, and yeah, I think with the, I'm very happy with the way the podcast is going and with the way the comedy is going, and I want your input a bit more, for the people listening. I want to hear some stories, anything that you want to share with our community, because this is what this is about. I want to make this some sort of a friendly but strange family, or like strange group of people. I want you to feel like you're a part of it, and you should be, and I want you to be a part of it. So that's why I want you to, again, if anyone has any interesting stories to share, whether it's about borderline personality disorder, whether it's about anything else you want to share, just send me a message, just email me, and I'll read it out. I'll let people know about how X, Y, or Z is done something. It can be private as well. I'm not going to name any names. I actually think with people with borderline personality disorder that are listening, yeah, send me a couple of stories on how you use skills. What was like some interesting situations where you had to use skills. How did you use it, and how was it? And I'll just read it out, on the podcast. That will be pretty cool, I think. So yeah, let's do that, But I think it's enough. It's enough from me for now. Again, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to hear those stories or to read those stories. But for now, I'm going to let you listen to my episode with Cathal. Cathal was running on my way to the flat. I think we talked about it a while, because he got into like this like muddy mess, and yeah, it was quite funny. He's got like anyway, it was just a funny story, and he ended up changing his jeans in the socks and shoes, because everything was muddy. And oh, bless him, he's a good guy, and he was a nice chat. He's he's a decent person. I was fortunate enough to have a chat with him and to cross paths with him a couple of times, actually more than a couple of times since I moved to London, and he was always a nice person to chat with, and then he's been very supportive, of this, and now you're going to listen to him share some of his stories. He's an interesting guy, so enjoy the episode, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. To sorry about the state of the flat. We are
Not at all. Not at all.
yeah. There's a bathtub. There's a bathtub in the living room, but that's because we're getting it changed.
Lovely.
Yeah, and some other bits. But thank you for putting up with this.
Thanks for having me.
How was your journey?
My journey. Let me tell you about a journey, Levi. Across the land. I was trying to get here to this lovely podcast, and I got as far as the hospital down the road and realised a slightly wrong bus. I got off, wanted to get on the right bus, realised the next bus is in until another 15-20 minutes. I don't want to keep Levi waiting for this very important podcast. And so I decided to run across a park because I like to run. And the park was essentially like a World War I battlefield of mud. It was, and I turned up to poor Levi's flat here, covered in mud and sweat, looking like a crazy person. So there you go. That was my journey from as near as Finsbury Park. So I made Finsbury Park a hard journey. So there you go.
Oh man, but you know what? It's good to have you here. I think when you also one of the things that really surprised me, you use the front door. Usually people come through the back door for some reason.
All right.
Yeah, just by like the way the maps work, and I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And then when you're like, so let me tell you what happened, and I was like, I didn't even notice anything until you pointed. I was like, oh god, no. Yeah, and also I run around there. So, but yeah, the way I usually go, I go from like the around like the top is Calvary.
Yeah.
And I do like a big circle.
Okay, well that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you know, it's good to have you here. Sorry for for everything.
No, not your fault at all.
That's happened, but good to have you here. What have you been up to?
Not much, man. You know, gigging, doing comedy. I got a couple of gigs coming up this week. What else have I been doing recently? Not much, man. Been getting very into randomly. Actually, my big thing recently, I've been got into my family tree. I've been doing my family tree.
No way.
Obsessively.
Yeah.
It's like a computer game for middle-aged people because you get new levels, you find a new person, and it's like a new level every time finding these things. So that's been my big obsession.
How far have you got with that?
Quite far back. Like I've got ancestors back in the 1700s. So and like I'm doing all my grandparents, my four grandparents, going back as far as I can.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy the stuff you find. Because the reason I did it, like my dad, he's like he was one of 10, and he's the only one left. So there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about my dad's side of the family. So I took it upon myself to just kind of get into it, and it's
how
great.
did you do that? Because funnily enough, I got my DNA results like last week actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my DNA results last week, and I'm going through like my grandparents, and I kind of stopped around there because it's really hard, especially because like they are in. I mean, I imagine for you as well, right? Because is your dad in Ireland still?
Yeah. All my family are in Ireland.
Your family's well, the thing is like my family is in Romania.
Yeah,
I just can't find anything about anything.
Yeah, no, once you go back a certain distance, it gets really difficult. So I get obsessive about it. So I start looking at baptism records from local parishes in the 1800s and stuff like that. And like I said, once you get into it, mate, it's great fun. You know, for people, for someone of my age, this is as much fun as I can have pushing 40. You know? And
you do well. I'm sure you know. Again, the running sounds pretty fun as well. You know, but. Wait, so do you see those records online, or do you have to go in?
Some you can get online. And sometimes I actually like message the local church or whatever and get all these things. And I've been messaging parishes in America because obviously being Irish, half the family goes to America.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, man. A lot of fun. I highly recommend it to anyone listening. Get into the family tree.
Wow. And is anything that you found really like, what was it maybe the most like mind blowing thing, or like some of the most mind blowing things that you found?
Well, there's a few okay, I found, let's say, my great-granduncle who died in World War I. He died actually I'm being very generic in geography here, out in the southeast of Europe. He died in Macedonia. So, it was fascinating to read about. Here's a guy, he was only like 17 when he joined up. He couldn't read or write, and he ends up dying when he's 20. And it's sad. Like, you read these stories, like the struggles people go through to get you where you are.
Yeah,
is what really chimes with me. You know, a lot of people struggle, did a lot of hard things to get you to be in this position. So
yeah,
I guess it teaches you a bit of gratitude. I guess, you know.
I find it very I agree, very very humbling when I don't know. I even think now, when we wouldn't be here, regardless how obviously there are the bad and good things that brought us here and the way we are, but still, without those, because I even look at, for example, at my family's history, like, without them, I wouldn't have the liberty of, being able to move to England, and it's stuff like this. Or look, because of and when, like you said, when you look into it, and I did some research, because I went to Romania last month, and I was reading up loads. I actually have a book in my in my bedroom now, because I have like loads of books hanging around. But one is about the council meetings of like the Jews in the area where I was living, and like the notes, and it's really wild, because you look from like I think it starts in the book is about 1930s to 1943, I think, when most of them got sent away. But it's just wild to see, and like to even see the record from like 1930, where they were like, oh, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and then in 1941 it already starts going down, where they are a bit more like, oh, we can't like borrow money to each other anymore the way we did. We have to be careful about our like expenses. Some Jews, like from the local community, they already start like moving to other countries, and stuff like this, and it's mind blowing.
It's mind blowing.
So I agree.
Stuff, But
that's wild. Wait, so was that your granddad that you said, or your great granddad, or who?
He'd be my great granddad's younger brother.
Like great granddad. That's also wondering, because I was like, if he was 17, then wow.
So then they named his nephew after him, and I'm named after the nephew. So it's like in a way, I'm named after that guy.
Oh.
So yeah. So, but yeah. So
when did you? How much? How long did it take you so far? Like how much? If you were to think of an estimate of a time that you spent.
Like I've been doing it for like a month and a half now, let's say. But when I got into it, I was doing it hours a day. Because when you find something, you want to find something else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Keep looking, and I'm quite obsessive with things like that.
Yeah.
But like it just brings you so much enjoyment, and obviously like it gives me something to chat about with my parents. Like something to, they're getting older now, with something nice to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my grandfather, for example. So one of the reasons I did it because my dad doesn't know much about his family, because his father was 68 when my dad was born. Like my grandfather was born in 1877. Like 107 years before I was born. So he doesn't know much about his uncles or aunts or his like he told me his grandfather was a guy named Michael.
Yeah.
He wasn't. It was a different guy who was his grandfather. And I found that out for him. So it's nice to kind of tell him this stuff, Yeah.
Wow.
So like, but yeah.
And where were they? Because you said you talked about like the connection to America, but also I imagine other parts of Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know like local wise, is it actually like from a similar place, or are you like spread around quite a bit?
We were very localized, because Irish people didn't like. Unless you went to America or off to Britain, you stayed in your own little farming area. There was no real reason to go another part of the country.
Right.
It was just, it was all poor, so why would you go to another part of Ireland? But very, very humble backgrounds. Like my mother's side of the family were all farm workers and servants in big houses and stuff like that.
Wow.
And then had 12 kids and repeated the process every 20 years.
Yeah.
But like I said, fascinating stuff, man. Fascinating.
Wow,
Highly
that's
recommend.
incredible.
Yeah.
And have you got any of like your family like living, moved around, or is it just you who's kind of like come to UK?
Well, yeah, like I have a lot of I've ancestors or like kind of second cousins in America, and I have people here in Britain that I don't know. And I have some in Australia. Like my brother was here. My brother lived in Britain.
Yeah.
And he passed away, unfortunately. But,
sorry about that.
I know. But yeah, he kind of came here first. And I came, I lived with him afterwards and stuff like that. But I have second cousins and relations kind of everywhere.
Wow.
Every English-speaking country has an O'Riordan living there at the moment. Canada, Australia.
You see,
someone in the Netherlands for some reason.
Netherlands?
Yeah, that's a weird one. She married a Dutch guy or something like that. Yeah, she's like my mother's cousin kind of thing. Not a close relation.
Of course, but still.
Stands out like Netherlands.
Wow. That's... it's so wild, when you think about this kind. Because I basically the way I looked at because I used the ancestry website, and then sometimes it's basically like it pairs your story with some other people's story, and it looks like I think I have like a fourth cousin that's in America, and then you have, and even though again I have some family that I know it's in America already, but like I never knew of that person, or it goes like, oh well, it feels like these people, which is actually again, but I guess is the same for you, or sometimes I feel like because English-speaking country, but also again we come from like a town in the north of Romania, and then to hear stories about, I think there was something like in South Africa, then you have like America, then like the United States. There were stories from like all these random countries, and you're like, but it all started in like
this little area of
a little area of Romania. It's what, so I think it would be the same. It's
and it brings you like not to go on too much about it. It brings you closer to your ancestor. It makes you understand that like a decision made 3 generations ago affects you now. That kind of stuff.
It's wild, but well, that sounds good, and it sounds. I love it. I could listen to it. And I could talk about it as well for ages, because it's just fascinating. But comedy wise, what have you been up to?
Yeah. I was where was I? Was I gigging? Sunday? Yeah, I was gigging on Friday. Over in South Ken. Doing a nice gig on this Wednesday out in Weybridge. Quipshed Comedy. If anyone happens to be listening from Weybridge, feel free to come along. Doing it with Jamie Allerton and Dane Buckley, so they're it's gonna be a good night. But just gigging away every few days a week, just trying to keep it going. Hopefully getting to Edinburgh this year. Hoping you're back about that soon enough. Bringing a show up there, and man, I enjoy it. It's a frustrating job as you well know, Levi. But Is it? Sorry. I'm like 12 minutes in here and I'm asking a very obvious, Levi or Levy?
Yeah, Levi.
It's
fine. Either way, I don't mind. But my mom, basically, it's a bit strange because when I go and do comedy, I go as Levy.
Yeah.
However, my mom used to call me Levi.
Okay.
So that's why I think when I'm kind of like off comedy, I feel like I like to divide like my personas to like such a, which I know is not.
There's your on stage persona and there's your off
stage. So
people.
So that's why I feel like sometimes when I go as Levy, I feel a bit more like, I'm just gonna do my bit and I'm gonna take the piss out of like certain things that are happening or whatever. But then when I'm Levi, I'm more of a like, like mama's boy. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the nice kid that was like,
Then you had your edgy material on stage.
Yeah, not edgy, but but that's I was reading something about like disassociating. It's not healthy, but I do find it healthy comedy wise, because I feel like I can take my frustrations.
Yeah, and it's like there's disassociating is probably an extreme version, but you're always going to be an exaggerated form of you on stage.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not a character act. It's like it's you. It's just amped up 20%.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you have to own the stage, right?
Yeah,
you got to be a big character on stage. So, like Bill Burr doesn't act like that off stage. You know what I mean? Dave Chappelle doesn't. Yeah, he'd be hard man to live with, I'd imagine. But but yeah. So like in comedy you have. That's what for most comedians, it is you. It's just a heightened version of who you are.
For sure, I think that's and that's good to know, and I think that's what helps me out a lot as well. But I'm like, when I'm off, I do my thing. I just live the way I do, and I'd like to think that I'm not a terrible person. I mean, sometimes I annoy people.
Some people say otherwise, but
yeah. Well,
a lot of rumors on the circuit about you.
That's fine. That's what I was saying. I'm aware that I annoy people at times, but not willingly. Like I rarely choose to annoy. Anyway, but and then when I go as Levy, I'm like, here's this guy who's gonna like take the piss out of the mayor of his hometown when he was and then I'm like, okay, and that stays there and that's it, I'm done. I'm now moving on and I'm coming off stage and I'm again
back to
relaxed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's again, I don't mind either. I don't mind either, but thanks for asking though. Yeah, Levi, it's fine.
Cool. Yeah, it is interesting, the whole concept. Like, as you know yourself, when you do comedy, you can get very very introspective about comedy. Like, if you're ever around comedians, all they fucking do is talk about comedy, right? And it's like, but the idea of like when you go on stage, you're kind of putting on a mask, in a way.
Yeah.
Like, it's not necessarily you. It's the you want to be in a way, you know?
That's how I feel. Yeah, I feel like at least I find it very healthy as well. Because when I write down, sometimes I'm like bitching and moaning, and again, look, sometimes it doesn't work. Like I was telling you earlier when I was on a run last week and I got caught in the rain, and this guy on a bike started like to school me about like running on the bike lane, even though the other lane was filled with water. I would probably like sunk if I was. No, I'm exaggerating, but and then a part of me was like, you know what, he's got a point. I shouldn't, run on the lane. I wasn't, because also I got caught and it got like dark really quickly. I didn't have any high vis or something on, so it's like, he's got a point. However, the self-destructing part of me just slipped out fuck off. And as I said it, I was like, oh.
Yeah, are you just doing these bad things just to get more material?
Yeah, and I feel like, well, now I have to like, I have to like keep up with it. I can't just go like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm really sorry. No, so I was like, okay, fuck off. And he was like, what? I was like, fuck off, mate. And as he was still cycling away, but slower, it was like, oh, I'll show you, fuck off or whatever. But then luckily he didn't. He just run away.
Classic two men acting tough, but neither want to actually fight.
Yeah, because
you can't back down.
Well, that's the thing. I was soaking wet. He was soaking wet.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense. Like if anything, it ran its course. Because he was on a bike, but he was also like being like wetters, and then so am I, and we just kind of like took our your frustrations on each other. And,
exactly.
But you see, sometimes I get off course, but then I get put back on, because again, as soon as I said it. Yeah, I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with me?
Yeah,
why am I?"
At least you realize it, right?
Yeah,
you're not just a person that goes around and says "fuck off" to people, that's you. That's who you are as a person. You're the guy that says "fuck off" to people. But as long as we all do bad things, but as long as you realize that, okay, that was too much. I shouldn't have done that.
Well, that's the thing. Now, sometimes I think recently I just wish for. For my comedy to do well, or the podcast to do well, so I can get like known enough to hopefully that guy recognize me, then I can apologize. Like that's my goal. If someone asks, "Oh, where do you want to be?" I don't care about Apollo.
Yeah.
I don't care about Netflix or anything.
You just want to be big enough that you can apologize to all the people you wronged.
Yeah, I can just be like, "Hey, look, guy on a bike. I'm really sorry for."
What was that show years ago where a guy did that? It was a comedy show. Was it My Name Is Earl?
I'm not sure.
Basically, the whole concept of the show is that every episode he goes around and wants to change his life.
Right.
And he believes he has to apologize to everyone he's wronged. And every episode is him going to an ex-girlfriend or someone he wronged in high school or something like that. It was a very funny show. Maybe I'm getting it mixed up. I thought it was My Name Is Earl, but it might not be. It might be another one.
No way.
Yeah. It's a good show.
I've not heard. I'll check it out, because I'm at the moment. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm going through the Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, great show.
Yeah, the next season has come out. So
right, that's been running for about 20 years now.
I know, but it's just because it has like such a massive breaks, because it starts, I think, in 2005 or something.
Yeah.
And then, or like 2002 or 2001, and then it goes 2005, and then it goes 2012 or whatever, and then 2019, and now it was 2020, 2023 or whatever.
Yeah.
And apparently this is going to be the last one, which is a shame.
So, Larry David can't be a young man. He's got to be 80 or something.
Yeah, well, he was old when like Seinfeld.
Yeah, like when that show started, he was like, the whole point of his character was a scratchy old man, and like that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah. But,
I know but I feel like I don't know if you feel, maybe because all my references are going to be like American, but I feel like Lorne Michaels as well.
Yeah.
Where like I grew up and the guy was old. Again, it's not to say, because it's not something to do with the age, but just I grew up and he was like an old man doing again brilliant work.
Yes,
and now almost 30 years later.
Yeah, because he started SNL.
Yeah,
he created like what, in the 70s?
In the 70s.
Yeah, jeez.
So that's like 50 years ago.
That's amazing, incredible longevity.
Yeah,
it's like Yeah, like I'm a lot of my references are American as well. I lived in America for a number of years, and in terms of comedy, my American comedians are way more my speed. Or like I'm way more influenced by American style comedy.
Did you do comedy in America as well?
I've done some gigs out there, but I didn't start out there. I started here, and I have gone back to America a few times and done gigs here and there,
Right.
around New York. But that style of comedy, I was always way more influenced by.
Because it's a bit more like, I feel like it's a bit more. I mean, again, it's not to say, but I feel like one-liners are very storytelling, which I love to do, and I feel like I grow into. It's a bit more. Sorry, just so that you can. So like one. It's my cup of tea, and it's my cup of tea. Like storytelling and observation. I feel like American comedy it's more like that. I feel like it's changing now. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose then again, English comedians are more now influenced by Americans, and Americans also see British comedy, so kind of you find an equilibrium. But because I think the big difference in American comedy and British comedy is like it's just the confidence of the guys on stage. You know, like not the stereotype. Like obviously, there's all different types of comedians and everywhere, but. Yeah. Your American style comedian, he's confident on stage. This is what I think about this thing. He tells you his view. Whereas a lot of British comedy is very self-effacing. You know, it's very kind of like, I'm just a guy and I do stupid things. Oh, I'm an idiot. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas Americans are more, this is what I think. I might be an idiot, but like they're brash about it. You know,
yeah. I see.
Yeah, so like there's a big, like if you watch like, whether it's Bill Burr or Tom Segura or whoever, there's a big difference between that style and like James Acaster style. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah. It's just an energy. Yeah.
And I think you've got like Daniel Acaster, Daniel Schloss. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking about James Acaster and Daniel Schloss. You got Daniel Schloss, who's doing. I think he's doing so well. He's like. I think at the moment he's living in America anyway.
Yeah.
Because he's that kind of like punchy comedian. Was like,
exactly.
This is my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't care what you think. And also, even though sometimes he has those bits where he talks about like his own, my parents are clever people. You'd think that they'll have like a clever kid, but then I'm just doing comedy or whatever. And so he's still, again, punching on himself or like he's taking it, but he still stands up for, and I think that's why it works. Because I think some of his bits, I think the one about the difference between British people swearing and American swearing. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I've seen it.
No, I'll show you after. I'll send you, but it's one of my favorite bits.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna spoil it either for you or for the listeners, but I just love it, and I think it goes really well because again he has that attitude of like, here is my opinion on something.
Yes, I think British people they don't want the guy on stage to be too confident. They don't want the guy on stage to think they're better than him or something like that. It's like, and British comedians they want to be below the audience almost,
Yeah.
Like, I'm dumb, you can laugh at me kind of thing. They don't want, like, whereas Americans are more, I think, this is just amateur psychology, but like, they're more drawn to confidence. They like a confident guy on stage.
Yeah.
Whereas the British, they like the self-effacing guy who makes fun of themselves and that makes you feel better kind of thing,
That makes a lot of, I can see that, and
I'm a smart guy. I'm a smart guy. This is why you get me on these shows, because I bring insight is what I do. I bring insight.
And it's funny earlier because you're like, every time two comedians meet, all they talk about is comedy.
And here we are.
Here we
are. We're one-trick ponies. We have no idea we're very. We know nothing about the outside world. We just know our own little corner of it.
Yeah, but I think sometimes. And I know it's a knife with two sharp edges, but oh God, it's because it's a lyric from Linkin Park.
Oh wow!
Is it
people of our age should know this?
The one with no indifferent. What's bliss? I forgot. Something is bliss.
All right, for someone.
Ignorance is bliss.
Well, that is the old saying. Yeah, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, so I think that where again it's I agree that I think it's a knife with two sharp edges because being too ignorant is bad, but also sometimes
what you don't know can't hurt you. What you like going back very briefly to the whole idea of the family tree, because I think about these people, like a lot of my ancestors were just like farm workers and like simple people. They didn't They compared them to modern age. They didn't know there was a war going on 1,000 miles away. It didn't
Yeah.
bother them. They had no idea about climate change.
Yeah.
These things didn't bother them. They just got up, they worked, they made sure their kids had enough food on the table, and that was their sole worry. Now, to us, they were dirt poor, impoverished people, but they didn't worry about nonsense. Like, well, not nonsense. I'm not saying wars and things that are nonsense, but it's like things that don't affect them. They didn't know about them. They couldn't read. You couldn't even read newspapers to know this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And like I think modern society, we worry about a lot of things that don't affect us, you know? Like
Yeah, or at least I think the direct effect. Because
the direct,
the one with, for example, you're saying climate change, and I'm like,
Of course,
I see
of
it and
course,
I understand it, but I also have I'm working on a bit where I talk about how, climate activists fly privately,
Of course.
and then I'm the
they're
one
on
who gets
loudspeakers
bullied
that are made out of plastic, that's made out of oil, and it's
and I get bullied for like not having 19 bins in my house.
how dare you? You're literally worse than Hitler, Levi. Literally the worst person imaginable.
And you see, with stuff like this, I
You're
do.
the reason polar bears are dying.
Yeah, and I've seen. I think actually my dad had this saying where he was saying, because I remember when like internet came to life and television as well, because I think during communism you were only allowed, like you only had telly for a few hours a day. You had a couple hours of news, and then you'd I think at 8 p.m. the TV will just go off.
State-sanctioned news and state-sanctioned shows.
And then we went from that to like, having like people breaking up on TV and not like those shows about like, again, it's not to say it's something wrong with the show, but like Love Island and stuff came out. And, and I remember my
a big change,
Yeah, or like if you know the Big Brother on MTV, and it was a huge thing in Romania as well. It was brilliant. Yeah, I made me as a 10-year-old. I felt things I've never felt before. Watching those late. Anyway, but I just remember my dad used to have this analogy. He was saying that, and again, it's not to say it's about the people on the shows. It's just an analogy my dad had, which was that stupid people existed already.
Yeah,
it's just that back in the day, you'd see your neighbor running outside naked. You'd feel like, oh, he's a crazy person. He's a crazy person, but you knew. Your other neighbors. Well, now
the whole
everyone knows. And everyone can see it, and it's wild.
It's insane. Another thing I think of as well, like compared to older people, like the media, how media changes things is like. The things you worry about now, I think about like as a guy, like it's worse for women, but like as a guy, I want to get a six pack, I want to get ripped, and all these kind of, I want to like, because you see a guy on Instagram, and he's shredded, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's something no one gave a fuck about 60 years ago. No, our grandfathers didn't care if they had a six pack, like that kind of.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing I'm picking, and they probably did because they were farm laborers. They probably were ripped, but it's not something they actually worried about. It's not the stresses that modern society puts on you didn't exist back then.
Also, now that you said this, because I remember, look, every time I sometimes call, because like, I would say likewise, I grew up around the farm. I grew up in the city, but my grandparents had farms. My uncle still lives in the house where he was born.
Okay,
which I think is beautiful. He has like a little garden. And every time I used to speak with and I still speak with him, but I don't go to the gym anymore. But when I used to go to the gym, every time he'd go like, "Oh, what have you been up to?" And I'm like, "Oh, I went to the gym." And he's like, just come and just come and work in my just do like get some potatoes out, or
a day in the farm.
A day in the farm, and then you're not gonna need to go to the gym.
Yeah, but he's in great shape. But he's not overweight or anything.
It's crazy because again sadly he had a stroke last year.
Yeah.
However, he's recovered when nobody thought that he stands a chance.
Yeah,
and it's a guy who eats like lard, for example, and on like he puts like a spread on bread and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
Yeah. Good for him. But
But also, do you follow like American football by any chance?
Not huge. When I lived in America, I was into it more, because I was living in New York. I was a New York Giants guy. But No, not like I watch a bit.
There was a picture of Patrick Mahomes celebrating going to the Super Bowl, like winning the conference and qualifying to the Super Bowl, and then he basically had like his T-shirt off, and he actually had like a dad bod.
Really?
Yeah, and everyone, like some people started like making fun of him online.
Yeah.
For like being like one of the arguably greatest quarterbacks in the history.
That's right. Yeah.
With that like a dad bod, and he was like, well, I'm a dad. I don't know. He had a very funny way of like turning around, and I feel like slowly now it's better. But I think for me, for example, like growing up, it was a nightmare because you're either fit or you're. But again, the fit, it wasn't even the case of how you're feeling. It was more about
it's
how you're looking.
It's aesthetic. Yeah. You kind of had this like I said, it's worse for women, but like it's this when you're a young fella. Oh well, if I don't get in shape, I can't get a girl. That kind of stuff, like this is just fed into it. Everyone goes watch the Avengers movies, and then Chris Hemsworth's massive and jacked, and every actor seems to be shredded. And like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to look. That's how I'm supposed to look. But But like I said, my point being like it's something we only started caring about in probably the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah,
or maybe a little more, but. It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Because I was. Have you checked? Have you seen Schwarzenegger's book?
His book? Yeah, I've read it. Yeah.
You read it?
Yeah, it's great.
Nice. I listen to it sometimes when I run.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, no, but I do. I'm about an hour and a half left on it.
Yeah.
And he had some very interesting, points. And again, I see he saw it as a job.
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying. Like he kind of like he got taken from there because he was talking about like Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
And again, I was born in like 97, so I wasn't there for that. But I even remember with Arnold Schwarzenegger because he became governor of California in 2005. So I was like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And it kind of like exploded around that time. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys. Like he's a fascinating guy because he is one of those guys that was just so driven in every aspect of his life.
Yeah.
Like if he was going to be a bodybuilder, he wanted to be the best bodybuilder in the world.
Yeah.
Then he wanted to be the highest paid actor in the world, so he did that. Like it's like that old Bill Burr bit about like he was crushing it for 40 years, and then he cheated on his wife. You got to mess up sometime, But it's like, of course he thought he could cheat on his wife. He's been crushing it for 40 years. That's Bill Burr. That's not me. But it's like. But he's one of those guys. He's a very inspirational guy to listen to because he was a guy from an average background who just wanted to be great at stuff and is willing to work incredibly hard in every aspect.
And that's the thing, because he had a story about which was similar to the one with my uncle.
Yeah.
Where he was like, he was like, "Oh, why are you going to the gym? Just do some work around the house."
Yeah. A fascinating book. Yeah, I definitely would recommend.
And I just love the way he says America. It's just so I wish that would be the actual. When you play on when you go on Google or something or any web browser and you tap on the speaker to hear how a word sounds.
The Arnold Schwarzenegger version of America.
Yeah, America, California.
It was very close for a while where people were actually. They wanted to bring forward legislation whereby, because in America you can't run for president if you're foreign born, and there was a push for a while to get that out, to change that so that he could run. He was that popular, he was a Republican who won in California twice, one of the most democratic states you could get.
Yeah.
So like I said, fascinating. Guys like that are fascinating. Guys who are just ultra driven, they're willing to focus on something and work. Nothing stops them. Nothing distracts them from it. Just work as hard as you can on that one thing. And if you want it, I know some people think it's a simplistic way of looking at things, but like if you drive yourself, if you work hard enough, you can achieve, which is of course what America was supposed to be built on, land of opportunity. And which is when you read Schwarzenegger's books, it's kind of why he wanted to be in America, but. Yeah, no, it's just people like him who are just so driven. So even you run and stuff like that. So I'm one of those guys that loves watching Goggins and David Goggins and people like that.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying that kind of. Now he's a bit insane, to be fair, but there's a nice middle ground. Like you could take a 10% back and still love what he's saying. That kind of thing.
I feel like that, which actually I'm I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Because for example, I speak with my I was chatting with my partner. I was listening because look, sometimes you can, like I said, it's good to listen to stuff and then just dial it back. Because sometimes I like some of the things that, again, with David Goggins, his audiobook was amazing.
I can imagine.
Like the
Which one?
Can't Break Me.
Can't Break Me. Amazing.
The Can't Break Me was probably like one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
Even now, I think it's probably in top 10, right?
Yeah.
So again, but the thing is that I feel like everyone has a threshold of being wrong as well as being right, or like being way too opinionated about something. But it still doesn't mean you wouldn't listen to because again, like I listen to some, I'm not taking it to heart, because even with like Arnold Schwarzenegger, some of the things that he's done, or like,
of course, no one's 100%.
No one's 100%, exactly, but just to have an ear open to that opinion, like, okay, fine.
Gandhi said some bad things. It doesn't make all of Gandhi wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, you see. So coming back to Goggins, for example, that's what I was going to say earlier. If you want to actually borrow the book, I'm happy if you haven't read it. Eat and Run from Steve Jurek.
No, I never read that one. No,
Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah.
And Jurek, Scott Jurek. Sorry, I keep on giving people the wrong names. Sorry. Scott Jurek.
Okay.
So, he's an ultramarathon runner. Have you heard of him?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I knew he ran ultramarathons.
God,
never read his stuff.
It's such a good book as well.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. He's such a fascinating guy, because like apparently his mom had MS, and like and then he was living so rough, and his dad was again, he just had like a hard, outbringing, and then is this guy who just like runs like crazy. And I think he gave me this idea, like he put a picture in my head about ultramarathon with like you just see like people puking on the side and then start running, or like apparently there were some runners who would just like puke while running.
Oh my god, jeez. Yeah, is that something you want to do?
No, I don't. But I just found the book extremely interesting, and that's why I was like, if you want to,
I did one. Because I did one once, I did for charity. I did an ultra marathon. It was as far as ultra marathons go, it was pretty slim, but it was like a 50k.
Yeah,
and I remember doing that for charity once. But it goes back to what Goggins, like once you have a goal of something, like during COVID, like we're just sitting around at home, so why not go out and run ridiculous amounts? Because what else are you going to do? Watch like reruns of Friends forever? So it's good to have goals, to have something to focus on and then. Like with running, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's if you want to just read books and learn about a new skill, it's good to have that goal, and then bit by bit you get better at it, and you can see the improvement.
Yeah.
For mental health and stuff like that, that's very.
I agree. I think it's and I think it works in every aspect. Because even now with the running, I know that I can't run. I don't run fast, so I just run. I try to run the distance, which again, to some people, like 20 miles is one run. While to me, it's a week goal.
Yeah.
But I start running now, and in about 2 hours, I'm going to stop, and I'm around, I don't know, under 15 kilometers. Yeah. And I'm happy with that. I'll take it. It's still better than not having that run in.
And that'll get better. Like the more you do that, like you'll notice, I'm getting a bit faster here. I can go a bit further. Yeah.
Some of the things in the book are brilliant about like the breathing.
Yeah.
Where he talks about like the nose breathing. He talks about like the how you like pacing yourself, and like the smaller the strides. And he has this thing. Have you heard about the 80? But apparently the goal for strides should be between 80 and 90 per minute.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard that.
Never heard that. No.
Yeah.
I'm very natural in my running. Like I'm not super scientific. I just get out and I run more, and then I run faster. It's not.
I wish I could do that, because to me, I'm like even now, but I've read about like balancing yourself forward.
Oh yeah, naturally you should do that. Yeah.
Because when you do it backwards, you actually, instead of landing on like underneath your toes, you land sometimes on the heel.
On your heel,
and you're more preferable to land on a hill.
Yeah.
And by reading this, I was like, oh,
there you go.
Yeah, and again, to me, I wasn't built for. I don't think I was built for anything, to be honest. But
there you go, kids. Read books. Should read books. That's what we should take away from today. Read more books.
You were. What made you get into comedy?
So let's say, 2015, 16, I was living on my own in London. And honestly, I had this job where I kind of worked late hours. I lived on my own. I didn't know anyone in London. So the only person I knew in London, and this is how sad my life was my personal trainer. I had a personal trainer, and he's the one guy I spoke to, basically. And so he said, well, mate, I'm going to watch this gig in Angel. He said he had seen this gig in Angel, and it was really fun. So I went along with him. right? And I watched it, and in my sheer arrogance, I was like, I can do this. I'm as funny as these people, like it's just pure arrogance. And so I messaged Angel Comedy, which is still there, still a great gig. And I messaged them the next day. And this was back when, you know yourself, like Angel is now, or it's a tough spot to get on. It's a big club, but back then you could just message them and they put you on in 2 weeks,
Wow.
So I didn't say anything about my experience. Said, is there any gigs I could do? And I went on. I did my 5 minutes, and I was good enough that I wanted to do more. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure if I looked back on it now, I was terrible, but I got a few laughs, and that made me feel good. So I just kept doing it, and man, it was a big change in my life. Like, because most of my friends in London are now comedians. That's like my whole social scene is comedy now. So I went from being this guy that lived on his own in an apartment, knowing nobody, being miserable. I don't like saying depressed because I wasn't clinically diagnosed, but I must have been close enough to it. But I was not happy. But now my whole social scene is comedy, and that's great. Brought my first show to Edinburgh 2018, and a lot of fun. And yourself, like there is a great the comedy itself is fun, but there's the other side of it that's lovely. You meet interesting people, you stick around afterwards, you have a drink and stuff like that. And if you want to drink, of course. But so I loved it. So I've been going for 8 years now. So 2015.
Well, also because this is the thing we were talking about, like how the community thing is like if you remember, we haven't seen each other for a while. So I think you were in Ireland.
I was for a bit,
and then we met in Stoke Newington, and then we just ended up like walking home, and we had like such a again, it's like one of those things, like you said, it makes you feel like, at least to me, and that night I was like, oh shit, it's. You get a sense of like, oh, it's bigger than just like, because again, sometimes, and this is the thing, life is in the way, and sometimes you go to a gig, you do your thing, and then you have to go home, or you have to do your, but then sometimes it's nice to just have to feel like, oh, I'm in a team of some sort,
you have this camaraderie, you have this thing in common with people, and there's always that thing you can talk to about them, and I remember that gig, there was like one person in the audience, and she got up and did a gig. Remember that?
I do actually.
That was the level of comedy it was, and but it was a fun night. I remember that, and man. But like, it's a weird thing we do, and like I said, we talk a lot about it. But outside of the comedy, it is a great scene. You meet the most interesting people, I think, doing comedy. Yeah,
because and sometimes it's like you see people who want to talk or who want to say something. But then in comedy, you see them trying to say that. So like you said, you get to have a glance on someone's
psyche, their inner views,
through comedy. And sometimes I know I've seen people who sometimes I'm like, oh no, but sometimes most of the times like, oh wow, okay, interesting.
And I think it attracts a certain type of people. Like it attracts the people with slightly different views, or people who are a little bit broken and stuff like that, because they're not it's generally not the guys who were captain of the football team who are there's some guys like that I'm sure are very good comedians, but it attracts a certain the more introverted people who have different views, and this is their way of getting it out on stage.
Well, you see, that's the thing. When I started writing, actually, I started because I've never had, because I didn't grow up with like the idea of mental health and things like that brought to me. But then during the lockdown, I did this thing. I was running, but I was doing like short runs almost every day and stuff. That's when I had my first not first, but that's when I displayed my lack of, I guess, well-being, and I got referred to a therapist, and then the therapist I was chatting with, it was funny because he was a Greek guy who was like an Orthodox Greek, like Christian Orthodox Greek guy, who kind of reminded me of everyone in the community that I grew up. Really? So I think at times I would be like, you remind me of the reason why I have to do
why
that.
I'm here.
You remind me of my inner voice, of like all the teachers and it was this guy, and he was like, oh, you should write down everything, like all the thoughts that you have between sessions. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And then I started writing. I was like, oh, that could be funny.
There you go.
And that's how I started writing comedy. And and I think then again, but that my whole idea was that, like you said, I didn't go out of, or like I was a creative kid, but I wasn't, again, like I was in plays at school.
Right, okay.
But I wasn't, and I think I only became popular because I kind of forced myself into the, at some point I was like, I can't do anything around here.
Yeah. Because I started late. I was about 30 or 31 or so when I started comedy. And because you see a lot of people who are of an acting background, of a performing background. I had none of that. I was a sporty kid. I was working in finance and stuff like that. And, it was it is interesting to see the backgrounds people come from and stuff like that, But I kind of lived a bit of a life first before I ever got into comedy.
Also, how do you do? Because you were talking about especially now you're still you're very healthy and
Oh yeah. I mean, people can't see, but I'm shredded. I am absolutely an amazing specimen.
How did you? How did that? How did you manage to balance it? Because I think sometimes it's a bit hard.
It is with comedy, especially when I started comedy. I was lucky. I was doing kind of a job part time. I was very fortunate. I had a job that paid well, and I didn't have to work a lot of hours. But so I could still go to the gym during the day, and then do my gigs at night. But I remember my first year or two in comedy, I did put on weight. I was getting a bit chubby, all right. But because it was the drinking, because I'm not naturally a performer, so I needed to have a drink before I go on stage, and then I'd have one at the break. Then I'd stick around. If I was sticking around, I'd have a couple afterwards. I was drinking more than I ever used to, because I'm not a big drinker. So that was the one health downside of it. But I am massively into my working out. Back then it was all about lifting weights. Now I'm more into running. But it's almost an addiction as well. I have to work out. I have to go for my run. It's it's a cliche these days, but it's a mental health thing. It's if I didn't work out, I was one of those guys. If I didn't lift weights for 3 or 4 days in a row, I'm like, I'm weak now. I'm getting skinny. Which is probably just severe mental health problems, really. But but I was like that. I had to go to the gym. I had to go for a run and that stuff like that. So so thankfully, I do make it work,
Nice.
I'll try and get to the gym before I go to a gig or something,
And I think, look, I know that I have an addictive personality, as well, and that's why I had to stop drinking, for example, because again, in the past it's been a problem, but more recently, when I decided to stop, it was more because of what you said. That when I moved to London, trying to make friends again and to move around the community, and the easiest thing is have a pint before or in the middle or after or whatever, and then it just adds up, and you're thinking, I'm not drinking loads, but then you end up every week with an average of 4 or 5 pints a day, and I'm like,
that's it, because you might be gigging nearly every night, and if you have, let's say, only 3 or 4 pints every night over a week, that's a lot. It adds up,
And that's when I went okay, look, I can't handle this, because I'm the sort of. Also, you know what? I've just finished reading the How Not to Be a Professional Footballer from Paul Merson.
Okay.
And it's about him.
Interesting guy, obviously.
Yeah. And it's interesting because he had some very similar thoughts where it was if I start drinking, I'm not going to stop drinking. If I start something, I don't want. And I realized, oh shit,
but that's it. You really have to watch out for it, and it's there is there's a scene, of course, of drinking, drugs, and all that kind of stuff. But you just got to. And also, I think from a comedy perspective, you have to realize what are you doing it for? Is it after a while? Is this a social thing for me, or am I trying to be a good comedian? And if you're trying to be a good comedian, you can't really fall into that world.
It's really hard because I don't know. Do you still have to do you drink before you go on stage?
I'll have one before I go on stage, and that's fine. It's just a settle. At this point, it's almost habit. It's settled nerves, but I don't have to stick around afterwards anymore. I don't have to drink again.
Right.
If it's during the week, especially if it's during the week, I'll go. I'll have one and just do my gig, and then go.
Because I was more curious about how, obviously, you're way more experienced than I am to be, But to me, it was such a hard. It was just hard to break that boundary of because I remember the first few times when I went sober on stage.
Oh, it's different. It's a big change, right? It's a big change.
Oh no, I was how do I know? How to do anything?
Yeah, it's that's for me. I have one before I go on stage. It loosens me out. But the thing is, I'm doing maybe material I've done 50, 100 times before. I don't need this drink. It's like, it's just, now it's a mental thing of, I go to gig, I have drink, I get on stage. But yeah, I probably should stop. I probably should like get rid of that bad habit. But yeah, it's like everyone has their own system, I guess. Everyone has their own habits. But yeah, but long story short, it's there is that element of any entertainment industry, I think, where drinking or whatever side of life,
I think it's very connected, no? Because like you see in even sports as well, where it's like, because it's sometimes for some people it's an addiction of a different kind.
Yeah.
And like how do you turn it into something positive? But I think with arts, it's not new to hear about someone struggling with something or someone trying to like or like dabbling around with whatever it is, alcohol, drugs, anything, and you're like, and it's very interesting because again it's like it.
Yeah, and it kind of goes like, I suppose like the reason I don't do drugs now and I try and drink less is like, because I think it might link back to the fitness side of things and the Goggins and all that stuff. It's like I prefer to do hard things. You should try and make stuff uncomfortable. You should be comfortable in doing uncomfortable things. So like once you get into like drinking, it's easy, and it's like with drugs, it's easy to feel. You're trying to hide. How can I say this? You're trying to make stuff feel good, right? There's bad stuff happening in your life, and you mask it with stuff, right? You get addicted to things, so you don't have to think about the bad things, right? And that's where a lot of drug addiction, a lot of alcohol comes from. You should try and embrace the uncomfortableness of life. And unless you do that, you'll never get past it. I mean, I know it's a deep thing to get into like with a few minutes to go, but like there is this idea of like if you go to a gym, you lift weights, your muscles get bigger, right?
Yeah.
Your psyche is the same, right? You have to overcome uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
And then you become stronger for that, If you just hide from hardship and just, I'll drink away my problems or I'll do some coke or whatever, you'll never get over those problems and you'll stay weak.
It's wild because I think about I always remember and I give the example of when after my dad's passed.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine. It's been a while, but I generally used to. That's why I kind of like relate with the book, from like Paul Merson, and so when I see that, I used to force myself onto sleeping by drinking.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like go home and drink. So I would either go out, get pissed, go home, or I would go home. And I remember like a couple of times I would just like wake up with like this one time is actually, I find it funny now, but I went to Tesco and Club Card became a thing,
right.
Or at least I found of it about like 6 years ago, something like that.
Right.
And I got like 2 bottles of white wine.
Right.
And I just gulped the bottle, like one of the bottles. I just drank the whole bottle, and then with the other one, I was sitting on a couch, not even having a glass.
Yeah.
And I just fell asleep with the other bottle, like almost like half drunk.
Gosh.
And then I woke up, and it was like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I went to bed. And I still took the bottle next to me. So instead of like drinking water, for example, I would drink the wine. Yeah, and I think a few months later, I was like, okay, I'm done with this.
And was that how you were trying to deal with grief?
I think so. Well, my problem was, and I had it for ages, and I still have it sometimes. I have nightmares. I have like really, and the more I think about stuff, and it's really hard. And then at the time, I didn't have the resources I have now, where I speak with someone regularly. I take my medication. I do all these things. At the time, it was kind of like, oh, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
And it was. I think it was more about that because and also with my dad, for a very long time I had a lot of guilt. Mm-hmm. Like I felt responsible for for my parents' divorce and for like his even like he's dying and everything, and I was just like, and to me it was wild, and I generally I would just like drink so that I can knock myself out.
Yourself. It's a numbing process. Yeah, like I was like you say when my brother passed away, it's like you want to do anything other than think about that thing.
That thing, yeah.
It's you want to hide yourself from it, but that doesn't fix the problem. That doesn't. I mean, you have to go through the process of this is going to feel
Is it-
terrible.
yeah, yeah.
And it is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that is part of life, and you have to yourself go on. There's so many ways to people deal with grief differently.
And I think it's such a long process as well, because like sometimes I even think I remember I had from my previous job they gave me 2 weeks
Yeah.
of leave,
Okay.
and I was like,
Only 2 weeks, all right.
and to me actually at the time I was like, okay, well that's it then. You know, like after 2 weeks, it means that
My job
I'm
is giving me
back.
2 weeks, therefore I'm fine after 2 weeks.
Yeah. So I remember taking the flight back to England, and I was like, okay, well, that's it. I'm going back to work.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, it doesn't.
While, for example, with my mom's passing, which was a couple of years ago, it's been
Yeah.
you know, it's been a much better grieving, I think, process, because even though I'm still, you know, I cry sometimes. I do stuff like I have the candle there, for example. Sometimes I light those up. But you see, I find different ways of like rather than running away from it,
Yeah.
I'm embracing it. Like it's
And you have to, like it's like, you know, these hard. There's two elements. There's two ends of the spectrum of it. Like there is the guy who completely shuts down and like I'm not going to think about it and I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
But also you can't let yourself get to a point where all you do is wallow in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like for example, in your parents, the example, like, you know, obviously they wouldn't want you to be wallowing in sadness, right? They would want you to go on in life. No, not my parents.
No, I think my mom would be like, well, you gotta cry at least once a week.
Oh, okay.
You gotta, yeah.
Remember me the right way.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. But no, that's what I mean. Like there is, because in modern society, I think we can go almost too much the other ways. But you got to feel everything. You got to have all your emotions out. And it's like, of course you do. You're a human being. Of course you got your emotions out. But don't let that be the end goal. Like the end goal is you living your life and being able to carry on your parents' legacy. And like for my brother wouldn't want me to spend my whole life crying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sitting down and crying at the sky isn't going to. Unfortunately, as morbid as this is, like it doesn't bring anyone back. You know,
True.
you have to, unfortunately, then put one foot in front of the other and just keep going. You know.
Yeah, and you know, because actually that's what I did last year. I did something called dialectual behavioral therapy.
All right.
Because I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, so I had to do that as a part of like the diagnosis. You know,
Yeah.
and the lesson is because I basically with people with borderline personality disorder, it's the emotional regulation that people struggle with.
Okay.
So then one of the things I've learned was, again, regulating the emotion. So it's, again, understand the emotion, feel the emotion, but only find the threshold. Because you see and it goes back to the beginning when I was like, you know, and I called that guy, and I told that guy on the bike to like, fuck off. That's where a part of my emotion, because I was so annoying, you know, it's raining outside. I'm far from home. Because I think at some point I was thinking about stopping, but I thought I have to go home anyway. Might as well keep on running.
Do you ever like read Stoicism or anything like that? Stoic philosophy, the kind of idea of like we all have emotions, but the whole point is that you control them, they don't control you, sort of thing.
I think this is a bit. So again, So can you give me some examples
Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and people like that? The fundamental concept is. Like, because some people think of a very basic idea of what Stoicism is just not feeling emotions. But what it really is like, of course you feel emotions, but the goal is you control your emotions, they don't control you. So like, when you told that guy to fuck off, you chose that. You chose to tell him to fuck off. Your anger, you can get pissed off, but you can realize, I'm getting angry now. I don't have to tell that guy to fuck off. It's not going to help me in any way. I can just keep running. You know what I mean? It's that sort of... Like it's not about denying your emotions. It's about understanding what's happening in you and then letting it out, like that kind of thing.
This is a thing about on the emotional, which was one of my favorite lessons, right? And the way the therapist who basically like, because it was really weird, because like the EBT was kind of like it was a class. For 6 months, every Thursday, I check in a mental health hospital. And it starts at 9 a.m. and it finishes at 10, and it finishes at 4. And then this guy, basically, the way he said it is like, call it the fuck it button.
Right.
Where you're always like, you know, you have 2 buttons in front of you. One is let it go. The other one is fuck it.
Right.
So you still have the right to press the fuck it button, but if you press the fuck it button, then you have to also accept any consequences that come with it. Because, rather than being in the position where, like, I had no other choice but drinking. I had no other choice but doing this. I had no other choice. No. You have a choice. Feel about it, because then, if anything, it's not to say that, again, to make you feel worse. It's actually, and at least to me, was to make you responsible and make you feel like, actually, so I'm in charge. So
exactly.
like whatever happens, if I see something, and look, like you said, we live a life. We see things that we don't like. We get to encounter, be in situations which you don't necessarily are happy with.
Yeah.
Feel that, but then before you're about to make a choice, I'm going to like headbutt this person. You gotta, and I the idea of having that button in my head, where I'm literally like the meme guy, the superhero with the drip of sweat. Where it's like, which button are you going to press? Leave it or fuck it? And then again, if you press the fuck it button, fine.
Yeah.
But you also have to accept that you've pressed that button.
Yeah.
And that sometimes, and not sometimes, most of the times when I use that, I'm like, fine, because at least I can't be like, I had no choice. I clearly had a choice.
Yeah, that's it.
And again, like, to me, actually, that time I thought the fuck off was more like inwards. I didn't expect
outwardly fucking off.
I was like, fuck off.
It's like, because like, I suppose the whole point of, like, when I say stoicism, it's like, okay, your emotions are like, it's almost like a dog on a leash. If you just let your dog off and bark at someone or bite someone, that the dog's leading you, right? Yeah. You're in control of the dog. Now, he can run around a bit in front of you and he can go this far, this much and this much, but you have him on a leash.
Yeah.
You have control there. He's just running around biting everyone. And that's, if you just emotionally react to everything, that's the dog controlling you. That's the dog leading you around.
Yeah.
You control the dog. I think that's maybe the easiest way to say it. But yeah, man, it's like, we won't be able to get into all of it today, but it is fascinating. The study of, like, mental health and how you deal with your emotions and how you deal with grief, for example. Yeah. It's something, maybe that side of things.
If you don't mind me asking, what helped you? Or like, what it maybe is obviously still helping? Or
yeah. I mean, like, look, it's. I think about them every day. It only happened about a year and a half ago, but it's like because the weird thing was the thing that hurt me the most. Now, look, I miss him. He was my brother. I loved him, and I wish he was still here. But it was the effect it had on my parents because they're still alive, and I see how much they hurt. Yeah. So, but then after a while, I kind of, like, it's hurting and it's terrible, and I still get pangs, like, and it hurts. But I kind of came to the point of, like, look, my parents had it rough enough losing a son. I got to get my shit together because they don't want to see their second son falling apart, So there comes a point. And this is kind of old-fashioned, I get it, and it's like kind of maybe not the modern way of looking at things. It's like you have to be strong for other people sometimes, Yeah. People depend on you. Yeah. And I just came to the realization that, look, my brother, he wouldn't want my life to go apart. And so basically, so that's, be strong, got to keep going. And look, it's something I deal with every day still. So,
wow. And did you... because I mean, you're a like religious person, right? So
yeah.
You go to like church and stuff, or
I'm lazy with that. I go to bouts of going to church, but I still read the Bible, that kind of thing. I'll do it that's just laziness. I read the Bible on my own time. I don't have to get up at 9 o'clock on a Sunday. So
fair enough.
But no, I have all respect in the world for people who go to church and who go to mass on Sunday. Like, in Catholicism, we call it mass, but. I still go to. I used to have one right down Holloway Road. I used to go to. Lovely. Oh, no way. It was like me, like maybe 6 or 7 old Irish people, and like 70 Nigerians. So it was a nice. The priest was Nigerian. It was a lovely congregation. But yeah, like, I'm really surprised, and I have that faith as well. That helps. I mean, some people don't have that. And, for some people, that's not their thing. I get it, but that helps me as well. Like, look. What happened, and it's in God's hands.
For years, I especially about with my dad's passing, because again he was older. But like for years, I actually had a period of time when I was very annoyed. At people who believed in afterlife. Although now I'm I'm kind of, again, I'm not. I don't know what I believe in. I'm generally at the point
Yeah.
where I still like to follow traditions. You know,
Yeah,
I still
yeah.
I'm trying to get in. But the thing is, I for a while I was just so angry with people because like when my dad died, people go, oh, he's going to a better place, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, fuck off. He's not. And
don't
it
know
was
that.
just so
Yeah.
hard for me, and I would
Yeah.
hate it when like people would be, oh, I'm just gonna light up a candle and think about it. I was like, yeah, as if that's gonna
Yeah.
bring it. But while again now. I have candles in my house.
Yeah.
I light,
Yeah.
and again, I don't know whether but that's I feel connected, which is nice. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna say that it was. I felt really. I think, for example, like when my mom died.
Yeah.
Because basically, like, just a bit of a backstory. Like my mom and my dad, when they separated, and as well throughout their life, like my sister wasn't very connected to my dad.
Yeah.
So then it didn't hit her
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely fine because again they had a very rough relationship.
Sure.
While when my mom passed, my sister was like in tears, was broken, and then this is the thing. She's also I'll say she's a modern believer, I'd say, where if you ask her, do you believe in God, she'd be like, yeah, of course I believe in God, but she doesn't do much.
Right.
She's like,
where the spiritualism.
but then as soon as again when mom passed, she started going, oh, she's going like into a better place. She started like praying, or like she'd start to like again go to church and I was like, what are you doing? That's the thing, for like I think about 6 months to a year. I was like, if anything, I was making fun of her, as in like again we were chatting to each other, and I obviously apologized, and she knows it wasn't from a bad place.
Yeah.
But it was just looking back at it now, I was like, I felt jealous.
Yeah.
Because like
that she had that thing, that, she had that ability to.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, whatever your views on religion are, whatever it exists or whatever, like if it helps, like, I mean, in the end of the day, all these things, like whether you read a self-help book or whether crystals are your thing, like if it helps you get through a very hard time, and it's like you can have a belief in something, what's the harm in it? Like,
that's how I see it now. I'm like, again, as long as it helps, it connects people. I think sometimes, like for example, I went to Rome when my mom's passed. We were meant to go to Jerusalem.
Okay.
And then obviously because of her passing and because of me being very, angry at everything and everyone, I was like, I'm not going to I'm not going to pray. I'm not going to a place. I'm just going. And actually, I ended up going to Rome and watch football live. It was beautiful. But there was like this like huge rain that just started out of nowhere, and then I run into a Catholic church.
Really, yeah.
Because I was trying to like get something to keep dry.
Yeah.
And they had the live because it was like around midday.
Okay.
And they had a ceremony on. Again, it was a weekday. It was like I think maybe a Monday or a Tuesday. And oh my God, I started crying.
It can be quite emotional, moving, like the singing,
the music, and the everything. I was just like, oh my God.
They do know how to get deep into your spirit.
Yeah. And I get it. That's the thing. I'm like, yeah, fair enough.
Give it a try for a while. You can always go back to Judaism afterwards if that's your thing. Like, just give it a while. Give it 6 months.
I did. Well, again, no. The only
I get commission from the church every time. I turn one person.
Okay. He's like, yeah, just my referral code.
Get 20% off all Catholic things. Yeah.
Cathal, hello. Oh God. Well, I love this conversation.
Yeah, great, man.
Is there anything you want to say before we?
No. Look, I mean, if anyone wants to follow me on Instagram or anything like that, I'm on Duke the Comedian, Duke the Comedian, all one word. And yeah, how
did that come along? Like how? What?
My nickname is as a kid. My nickname was Duke, like playing football and stuff like that.
Okay.
Look, it actually comes from a Rocky movie. The coach is called Duke, and I used to box. And
really,
because I boxed, he called me Duke. Yeah, just one of those weird things that stuck. There you go.
Rocky was my favorite movie growing up. Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's a nice link to end on, But Duke, he was Apollo's, and Carl Weathers, God rest him, died this week. His coach in the movies was Duke. Yeah. So that's where it comes from.
Oh my God. I didn't think of that, and I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, you would never think of that.
Yeah.
That linkage there. But well, I used to play hurling and football when I was younger, and a friend of mine just said, "Oh, you're like Duke in the movie or whatever," and it just stuck. It's stuck ever since.
Because I was always curious. Every time I saw you on, I mean, obviously since we met and since we like started following, or I started following on social media,
Yeah.
it was like Duke the comedian. I was like, why? Like, where's Duke? From? Okay,
Just stuck from a childhood nickname.
nice. Well, and you said it before. You're trying to make another appearance at the Fringe.
Yeah,
is that correct?
I'm waiting to hear back, but if I go, I'll bring a show called Recitar, and fingers
What's
crossed.
it about?
It'll deal kind of very, very quickly. There's an aria.
Take your time.
There's an aria by Pavarotti. Not by Pavarotti's famous for singing it, but it's an old it's called Vesti la Giuba, and it means put on the costume. And basically, the whole aria is about how this clown, his heart's breaking because his wife's left him for another man, but he has to go out on stage and still perform because that's his job, And it deals with I came up with this idea when after I got divorced, and but also the whole concept of doing something hard, doing your show when your heart's breaking. It deals on my brother as well. I kind of have a through line of that. That's basically it.
Wow.
The famous kind of the crying clown, the sad clown.
Yeah.
That comes from Vesti la Giuba.
Oh.
So it's like the clown whose heart's breaking, the whole dichotomy thing there.
And what was the name of the show again?
Recitar. It's
Recitar.
It's the first word of the aria. Recitar means about to recite something.
About to recite.
Yeah. There you go.
Let me know when put it on your socials when you do the work in progress, because I don't think I'm, at least as far as I know, if I go to Edinburgh, I'm only going to go for maybe like a week and try to do like some guest work. But I'd love to see because it sounds amazing.
Yes, thanks, mate. But I definitely got some work in progress over the summer, spring, summer.
Yeah.
Anyway, so try and get a few in there. So I'll let you know, and it'll be on all the socials and stuff like that. But I'll let you know personally.
Wonderful. Yes. Well, Duke the comedian.
Right.
Cathal. Thanks so much, Cathal. I really appreciate you, man. No, thank you. And hope you enjoyed, folks. Bye-bye. Cool. Well, that was it. That was the episode with Cathal. His social media is going to be in the bio of this episode. And anything else from me? No. But actually, yes. Just the same thing I mentioned before. Anyone who's got some interesting stories to share about how they used any, DBT skills, please send those messages over to me, either email or just DM me, and I'll have a read, and I'll put them on the podcast, and we'll share it with the community, with the world. Let everyone who listens to this know that we do all right. We got our little school of I don't even know if it's school of thought. Anyway, we just got a school of our own, and we're doing really well, and we can use those skills. So until next week, folks, stay skillful. Bye-bye.